All right, so this book was too freaking good. I had to go out and get myself a physical copy. It's called Keys to the Ultimate Freedom by Lester Levinson. And in this book, he describes probably the easiest to understand, the most common that I've seen in myself and in other people, the stages of spiritual growth or self-actualization. And I'm gonna lay out these stages, and I think by the end of this video, you're going to be able to actualize yourself faster. So the first stage is what Lester describes as apathy. Inaction due to apathy with resentments and hostilities and fear to express for fear of retaliation, a subjectively destructive state. And in this stage, it's a stage of inaction. So this is where you get your really depressed people, people that don't want to even get up and do anything. And we've all been in this stage, right? Maybe you're questioning, what is the point of life? Why do I even try? Why should I even put in any effort to better myself? Apathy is a lack of interest or a lack of enthusiasm or concern. You just don't give a shit. But people in this stage, they are inert. They are not moving or taking any action or doing anything because they're holding on to a lot of fears, a lot of tension, maybe trauma, insecurities, things that they're harboring up, that they just can't even do anything. But then when we move to stage 2, we pull ourselves out of that very low state and we start to take some action. You know, even though it is action, it is still destructive. And this is where Lester says society pretty much is at today. This is the stage where you could say it's the classic societal person. Eating like crap, caught in consumerism, living stressed out or in fight or flight mode most of the time, and taking lots of action, but most of it is detrimental to themselves. This was me in high school, right? Just completely unaware, really unhealthy, still being driven by fears and limitations, insecurities and lack, and thinking that I was going to get happiness through external things. Acquiring more things, accomplishing things. But I was really unaware of how we actually create a reality, how powerful our decisions are. This is a stage where people just kind of act aimlessly. No goals to shoot for, nothing that really gets them excited, just living. You know, doing shit, but you're not really getting anywhere. That is stage 2. And in stage 3, this is where we start to realize, okay, I can kind of create my reality. The choices that I make, the decisions, the habits that I instill, they make an impact on the future. And then when we get to this point, we kind of start going crazy. We start to really take a lot of action and grind. Lester says in stage 3, we start taking more action, but it's both constructive and destructive to ourselves. Because like I talked about in a previous video, the more effort that we take, or the more we feel that we need to grind and push and will ourselves, we're just creating more friction. And in this stage, we're also still really attached to the outcome. We're really being driven by desires. And we're a victim to those desires because we think those are going to make us happy. The common denominator here is that no matter what stage you're on, we're all trying to seek happiness. And that's what I'm going to talk about in my next video, how to actually find happiness. But in stage 3, it's like one step forward, one step back. It's like too much of a good thing we know ends up not being a good thing. But maybe in this stage, we're starting to push against some negative habits that have been ingrained in us and we've just been automatically living out. It takes effort to go against those at first. And in this stage, Lester says, it may seem like things are getting more difficult because now our subconscious wiring, things that we have pushed down, that we are no longer aware of but are still controlling us, those things are going to start to come to the surface. And it's going to feel like we have more problems or we're struggling more and things are getting worse. But really, these things are just coming to the surface for us to be able to see them, notice them, and become aware of them in the first place so that we can process them and let them go. So I'd say the majority of society is still stuck in stage 2. Some of society is starting to move into stage 3 and even into stage 4, which Lester describes as doingness, beingness. So we're not just doing and taking all this action and burning ourselves out. We're starting to discover who we truly are and what our natural state is. What is our natural state? It is pure beingness. It is pure just existing, witnessing, observing. He says it is energetic doingness with calmness, much outward action, all constructive to oneself, the world, and the universe. So in this stage, things are going to keep coming up that we have to face, process, and let go. And we're taking more and more positive action. And we're realizing that we never had to change anything outside of us. We just had to change ourselves on the inside, and the outside will change. We're starting to realize that we create our own mental limitations. And really, we don't have to do more. We have to do less in that we can just subtract everything that is limiting us and holding us back. And that is where we shift from doingness, feeling like we need to take all this action and force things and force our growth, to really just subtracting and letting go and getting out of our own way, basically. And then we get to a point in stage 4, and this will lead us into stage 5, where we detach from having to do even those positive things. I remember I used to be really strict about what I ate, super strict, to the point where it was unhealthy. I was so into health and fitness, but I realized that I was only doing it for an outcome. I thought I had to read all these books and watch all these videos to improve myself. But eventually I flipped a switch where I stopped forcing my growth and really started to let go of all of my attachments, even if they were so-called positive, because we can still be a prisoner to those. But we're starting to surrender more and get to higher states where we're thinking less and really just being. That's what in stage 5, Lester would call the actionless state, which I talked about in a previous video. You're really taking action when it feels natural. And in this way, it doesn't even feel like you're doing it. It feels like it's automatic. And you don't lose energy because you're not creating any friction, right? You're not wasting all of this energy trying to force things. And Lester says that stage 5 probably is beyond this physical world, but we have to master it in the physical world. And that is just pure beingness. Inaction due to serenity, the ability to just be, witnessing, watching, allowing and accepting the world and the universe as it is. Radical acceptance. This is true letting go. And when you have the courage to let go, you'll find that there is something greater than you that kind of takes control over you. But the paradox is that thing, greater thing, higher power, whatever, is still you. Whether you want to call it God, the universe, source, your higher self, universal energy or universal mind, anything you want to call it, that is what you are aligning with. When you no longer try to force and control, and you are no longer attached, you really are just existing. We know when we enter meditation and we enter the state of pure being, there is no room for anxiety, fear, stress, any of that when we are just fully present. And that is the real version of us. That is the most limitless version of ourselves. And the thing is, we can tap into this state no matter where we are at any time. We can definitely still have intentions or things to shoot for. We just stop being so damn attached to needing to have those things, needing an outcome to go a certain way for us to feel happy or secure in ourselves. That is why I think knowing these stages, you can actualize yourself faster because you can enter those higher states anytime. But it does take some effort to make these higher states, this state of pure being, a habit. Because remember, we have the first stage, which is a stage of inaction where you can't even get off the couch. The second and third stages are stages of action where you're going against how you are programmed and wired. And then stage 4 and 5, states of inaction where you're letting all of that go and returning to just pure existing and being. So hopefully this video will help you to actualize and become the real version of yourself faster. See ya.